Hello there guys, welcome to another custom endpoints videos. So for this one, I want to show you how we could use an external API in radsystems. So we are purely going to be building this API using radsystems. We're not going to be needing any fancy code. We're just going to be writing a backend code, and you're going to use this API to display some Rick and Morty data in radsystems using what's already available. So we want to make this as short as possible. We're going to be able to display these users, these characters, and when you click on that character, we also want to see details of that particular character, right? So we're going to go ahead and try and make that work. So we're going to start from scratch. Go ahead and create a RAS system application. I'm going to be using Node and Prime View. Create that. Let's call it Rick API, right? Or let's just call it Rick PI. All right, and I don't know, let's just use SQLite. I don't really need these to be in a MySQL database. I'm just going to use SQLite, and I'm going to call this Rick PI. So you can use whichever database you want. So I'm only using this for this particular purpose. So I'm going to create that, and it's going to create a database. And because we don't really need any tables, we're going to call these characters. So the reason for doing this is so that we just have an empty project, so it doesn't need any characters. We're just going to save that so that we can publish a project. So this is going to be generating the project for us. While it does that, I can go ahead and open this in my Node-RED projects, and I'm going to go for Rick PI, right? This one here. And I'm going to open it inside my code editor. Alright, so that's there. So I only open it in my code editor because in case of I need to edit some code manually or all that stuff, right? So moving on, while this is generating, let me just close some of these things I had here earlier. While it's generating, we're going to go ahead and create a custom endpoint. And this endpoint that we're going to be creating here, we want to be able to grab some data from here. So I'm going to call this, give this endpoint a name. Let's call it, let's use this file called characters. Let's call it get characters. Alright, so we have an endpoint called get characters that we have created here. Now the next thing we need to do now is grab the API request from here. So we want to grab to call an API, to make an API request. Now this API request that we're going to be making here, it's supposed to be coming from this Rick and Morty API that we have here. So for example, you click on this, you see here we have the API and you have characters, right? So we need to find a way that we can get these API to work. So for example, I'll open my Postman here, and I will try and test if this is an actual endpoint. So you can send that using Postman. So characters, locations, episodes, right? So we can so this means that when you click on this, it should be able maybe to give us some characters. Right, so we have character name, and you see it also has pagination and other stuff. We have character name, and these are episodes, right? Then we have character name, Morty Smith, right? So this is the endpoint that we are looking for. Alright, so copy that endpoint, and let's go to radsystems, and you're going to transfer that endpoint here. Alright, so we don't really need, it's not really asking for any headers here, so we can just remove the headers. However, if your API is asking for the headers, you can keep them. Alright, so here what you're going to do is you're going to say return res.ok. So it's supposed to return this response.data in the front end. So copy this path to the endpoint, and you're going to go to our home page here, because this is where we want to display our code, and you're going to create, let me just paste that character there. So what you're going to do here is you're going to create a variable. Let's call it const characters. Okay, characters is equals to ref. So this is going to be an empty array, right? So that is always initiated. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get this function, which is going to be calling our code, and we're going to say we want this to be called get characters. I just call it get characters like that. Okay, so we're going to now copy this path to the endpoint we just created, and you're going to replace this with that. So now this characters variable we created here, because it's the one that's going to be holding our characters, we're going to paste it right about there, and we can publish this. So before you even publish, what you need to do is add a custom view here, and that custom view is what we are going to add our characters variable, because remember, when you call this when this function runs, it's supposed to populate that variable. So we are going to come inside our custom view, all right, and we are going to put it inside brackets. Now remember, we need this function to be executed when this page loads, so we add a hook called onMounted. So this onMounted basically means when this page loads, I want to do something. Maybe you can in our station we're going to be calling this API code we have here. So click on that and publish it. It should now allow us to open our localhost. Let's open our localhost, and here we have our characters. So when you reload this, it should give us something to work with. So I want this to be more mobile oriented, so let me just use this. So let's see, maybe this did not publish. Project published, save. All right, so in case of any issues, you can always debug. You debug by coming to the console, and let's see if we have any issues here. Also, let's make sure that the code is being executed properly in the backend. All right, let's see, characters, home page. Alright, so it seems this is not being executed for some reason. Rick and Morty API, Axios, return less.ok. Yep, that should work fine. Get characters. Let me see. Alright, so found the issue. So the issue is because this is a promise. It's a promise-based function. So if you do a console log, you notice that it's supposed to return a promise. So the reason why it's not working is because Axios uses a promise. So what we need to do here is we need to come here and do await Axios get URL. And alright, so we can come back here. Let's see if this runs. So maybe we do. There you go. So we get back our data just fine. So as you can see, now we are getting info, count, all that stuff. But whatever we are what we are more interested in is these results. So we can go back to our rad systems, go to custom, and we're going to say response or data dot results like this. So click on OK, publish that, and it should give us now the results of this particular people. So what you now need to do is allow rad systems to now work with a data repeater. So you're going to go and grab a data repeater here. I'm going to paste it here. So now this data repeater is going to be getting our data from the custom endpoint we just created here. So come here and do get characters. So this should show us some data here. All right. So the data repeater should return some data that we can work with here on this page. So what I can do now is we can go here because we already have the characters, and as you can see, it's doing regular response dot results like this. Okay, so you want to get the results like that. There we go. So we have this data appearing somewhere inside there. But okay, so what I can do here is make this call 12. Okay. So that's fine, and you don't need this QP something is not for prime views, for Quasar. So now this data repeater, what I want to do is I want to add an image right about here, right? So I want to design it the way I want. So for example, so now if we come here in rad systems, sorry, if we go to Postman, You notice that postman is giving us what we need. So we need the name, the status, the species, whatever. So we can do data dot name now. So this name, I'm getting this name from what the API is returning here. So this name. So if I publish this, it should give us the names of the particular person or whoever you're working with. So Rick and Morty, Jerry Smith, all that stuff, right? So all of them will have like an image attached to them. So the way we are going to add the image is by going to the data repeater here, and right about here we can do a div, right? So we can come here and do div. So this class, we can just get rid of this class. So it's going to stop it from being a card or whatever. We could still keep the card anyway, but let me think. Okay, let's keep the card, right? And let's add an image here, right? src, so we want to do source is equals to data dot. Now we're going to do data dot. So if you come to your API here, we have the name, right? Where is it? Image. So we want to get this image and put it here, right? So inside the image, we're going to come to data dot image, and let's do that. We can do class is equals to with full, so that like the image fits the whole screen. So you can come here and publish this. So this should at least give us the image of these particular characters, right? So now remember, this is a flex, so the reason why it's kind of overflowing is because this is a flex here. So you can remove that flex and wrap this inside a div, right? So Control X, let's wrap it inside a div like that. Okay, so let's see if that works. There we go. So you have Rick Sanchez right about there. So now what we can do next is, we don't really need this here. Let's just Control X, put it below here, and we want to add a few things about this character down below. So these things, we're getting them from the we're getting them from here. We're getting them from here. We want the status, right? So we're going to come here, do data dot status. So that should give us the status, whether they are still alive. Okay. Come down here and let's do data dot gender. Okay, let's go down and do species, right? Data dot species, and finally location. Now you notice that location is now an object inside our array. So what we can do now, because we want to get the location, you can come here, let's go down here and let's do data dot location. But now, because location is an object, we now need to get the name of the location, right? So you can come dot location dot name, right? Because we can just go right into the name. Okay. So now the episodes, you can like list how many episodes this person appears. So what you can do now on the episodes, because this is an array, we can count the length. So we can come here and do appears. So we can come here and say appears in this and this episodes like that. So we now need to get the length of the array. So we're going to come here and we want to reference this episode here. So we want to do this dot episode, but now we need to get the length. So we're going to say dot length like that. So because this is an array, so you can publish this and send it like that. So you can see appears in 51 episodes, Citadel of Rick, Human, Male, or whatever. So So 51 episodes, this appears in 42, all that, like that. So now we need a way that when you click on this particular person, you can now see their individual details, right? So we now need to initiate a new API call here. So how do we do that? So you're going to go back to where we have our API. So we have this API in Rick and Morty. So when you click on this, character, you notice that now it comes back here. So this is the API that we are trying to reach. So you go back to this. As you can see, it's accepting an ID of that particular character. So there you go. So you have this particular guy here. So what you can do now is do conditional visibility. So the way that I'm going to handle this is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to come here and do a custom view, right? Now keep in mind I have two particular sections, right? So for this one I want to show you how we can use tag attributes. Okay, so we have this section 1 here, and I'm going to drag and drop. I'm going to drop this custom view. So this custom view is only going to be visible when we click on a character, right? So now I'm going to now create a function that's supposed to handle that. So we are going to create a variable. I'm going to say const is view const single character is equals to ref. So this is going to be a boolean. By default it's going to be false, right? So the reason for doing this is so that when initially I come to this page, I'm only going to be seeing a list of characters. When I go back, I'm going to see now an individual character. Right. Good. Now let's create a new custom endpoint and let's call it single character. So I'm going to come here, do characters. Let's do single character. Great. So now we have that. So get rid of this. And let's now just copy exactly what we have here at the top. Now remember, we don't really need to try and catch, right? So we don't really need 2 of these. We just need 1. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this and go to single character and put it right in here. So this character here, as you can see, the API that we're trying to reach is this particular API here, which is Rick and Morty /character, right? Like that. However, this expects it expects us to pass the ID of this particular character here at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch this to that, so that now I can add a variable in here. Now the variable we're going to create is going to be a variable called let CID. So CID is going to be like character ID is equals to rec.params.cid. So here at the top we need to now pass CID. So we need to pass CID here. CID like that. And yeah, so we have that CID. So now that is what we are adding here. So now the variable we are going to pass here is CID, right? CID, sorry. CID like that. So this. So now when this get called, API gets called, it returns this. So it will accept an ID as a parameter here. So okay. So click on OK. So we're going to copy this first. Click on OK, and we are going to go to our custom code. Now in our custom code, I'm just going to put this here. In our custom code, we are still going to use this same variable here, right? And we're going to come here and just paste it here, but now this is going to be get single character, and we want to now replace this here and replace all of it because we want to change the speech marks to look something like that. All right, now what we need to pass here now is going to be the ID of the character. Now this function is going to accept the CID here, right? So these are parameters, so it doesn't have to be like the one we created. And now we need to pass the CID here. Okay, something like that. So this is going to be passing the ID of the character to this endpoint, and it's going to trigger at least a response. However, we can have another variable here and call it const. We could still use this character here, but let's just have another one. Let's do const single character. It's going to be a reference. Now this is not an array, it's just an empty, or it's just an object, because we are getting a single character. So all right, so now what we are done with that. So what we need to do now is this single character is going to be populated when we come here, right? So get single character is going to be populated when this happens. So what we want to do now is when this is clicked, or when this is clicked, we are going, when this API call is finished, we are going to do to now switch this single character okay, let's just use this single character view, because remember we had created a different single character. So this is going to be holding the data of that object. So because it's an object, we're going to leave it like that. So we're going to copy this view single character view, because this is where you're going to get the data of this single character. And let's just have it like that. So we want, when this single character function has finished, we want to now trigger this view single character. So this single character should be set to true. So we're going to say single character dot value is equals to true, right? So that being done, we are done with that. So we need to now find a way that when this is clicked, we pass the ID to that particular function. Now remember, this is not being called here on mounted, because this needs to be called when we click on something, right? So click on that, and we now need to go to our data repeater. So in our data repeater, we're going to go all the way up to where we have this router link, right? So we no longer need this router link. Instead, what we're going to do is create a clickable click event. We're going to say click is equals to, so this is going to be the function we just created, but now the parameter that's supposed to be passed here, it's supposed to be the data dot ID of this particular character. Because if you go back to the code we had earlier here, you notice that the ID of the user is here. So we need to pass that dot ID there. So when this is clicked, we should populate this particular single view function variable, sorry. Now that being done, we are going to now go to our custom view here, and we are going to add that single character view right about here. So now this is where tag attributes come in. So in the tag attributes of this section, we are going to go here and click on tag attribute, and we want to do a VIF. So in the VIF, we want when this single character is set to true, right? When single character is set to false, that's when this page should show. Now remember, by default it's set to false. So what you're going to do here is you're going to come here and just paste it here, right? But because you want it to be, if it is false, that's when this is supposed to show. We're going to do not single character, right? Click on OK. Now when single character is set to true, we want to now show this other view page here. So click on that, and we're just going to say single character. So this is the equivalent of saying is equals to true, but instead of just doing is equals to true, just leave it empty like that. So when we publish this, we should be able to do something. So if I click on this, hold on, let's do inspect. Let's see where the issue is coming. Field, the server is holding the status of 500, so it means there's something wrong with the server. So if we go to the server, it says there's something wrong. All right, so okay, so the server expects Rick and Morty. Okay, so the server expects a parameter. So now let me check. Okay, so the error is this. Just a small, simple error. So the error is, the reason why it's not working is because there's an undefined parameter. Now the reason for this is because you see here we did CID with capital I, but here we are doing C with small I. So this has to be capital. So when you click on that, we can publish this now. Let us see. So there you go. So you click on that and it should show the data for the APIs now. So if you go back to radsystems, save that. So this will only show when single character view when you click on that particular page. So we can now go back here. I just put this for testing. So this single character view dot value should be equals to response dot data, not results. The reason why we are not doing results is because this particular page here, if you click on it, it's not showing any results. We just access it directly. So you're going to now click on OK and publish that. So now if we come back here and you reload your page, you can click on this. Hold on, need to empty cache. I thought I just did publish. There you go. So now when you click on it, you should see the data for Rick, this particular character. So now what we can do is do exactly what we had done using the data repeater, but you can now use a data component. I think I've never really used a data component. Let me see. So assume this is supposed to just return one value, right? API data source. Unfortunately, we cannot use this. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this. And here, I'm going to now do this myself. So we don't really need to do anything fancy. So what you're going to do here is you're going to come here and do image like that. Let's do source is equals to class is equals to w_full like that. Down here, we are going to now do exactly what we had done earlier on top, because now remember here we have almost the same thing like that, the same things we had in the other video, right? So okay, so what you're going to do is we are going to go to our data repeater. Just save this first, come to our data repeater here, and because this is similarly the same thing like we had here, just copy this exactly the way it is, come to custom view and paste it down below here. Now we're just going to change this data from data to single character view, because remember single character view holds the object or the JSON object of whatever we are trying to display here. So do that, replace data with single character view, single character view, single character view, single character view, single character view like that. So when you publish your application now, say there's a missing vbind. So single character view, yeah, so this is missing. So we need to now do single character view dot image like that. So when you publish that, we should get something to work with, right? So click on Rick and you should see the data of Rick here, whatever. So now we need a way to go back. So we need at the top here, we need like a button. So what you're going to do is come here, go to the top, and let's add a button, right? So you're going to come here and say, let's just do span class is equals to let's do back like that. Do span, right? So here we're going to do font bold, right? And let's do a click event is equals to. Now remember, the way we are doing this view using the tag attributes is we are doing single character, which by default is false. So on this page it's true. When you click on this, it becomes true here. So since we are on the true version, true state, we need to now switch it back to false so that it goes back to where we were. So you're going to come single character is equals to false, right? So it's going to go back to false. So if I click on this and I come back here, view Sanchez, and click on back, it's supposed to go back to where we came from. So if I click on morty, then click back, it's going to go back to where we came from. Right, so you can now pick this. You can pick this one and maybe put a div down below here. Div. Let's put this one inside a div. Let's do class is equals to margin bottom 0. Margin bottom, let's make it 3. Let's do class of margin bottom 3. Okay, I'll make this container fluid. Just make it container. Make it container like that. Publish that. And there you go. So I'm just going to change the theme for this. Let's make this tailwind light. BGs, let me just take a BG white. Surface ground, let's do text black. Shadow none. Okay, publish that. And now we have this looking something similar to that, so you can minimize it, do whatever you want with it, and by default this is how it looks like, right? So there you go. You can just remove this card now so that you don't really need it. So you're going to come here and do this card gone, publish that, and we have this now looking something like that. So now you can click on this and show that. You can also make them maybe appear side by side by adding a column to that. I think you can do this. Should be maybe call 4. I assume that should make them appear side by side. There you go. So you have your Rick and Morty API. So that's generally how you're going to be working with all your APIs. So this is a GET request. And you notice that some of your APIs require you to maybe enter an API key. That is where you leave the headers on, right? Now remember the header we removed when you are doing the first API call. That's how you are going to be doing that. However, this is how you have it. And in a mobile device, it should look something like this, which is not very attractive. So the way you're going to handle that is on mobile devices, you leave it as call 12. So what you can do here is you can come, go to your API, sorry, not API, go to your custom code here, and you're going to do, this will remain as call 12. However, on small devices, you want it to be call 12. On medium devices, you want it to be call MD call 4, like that. So if I publish this, you notice on mobile devices it's called 12, right? But if I go to a bigger screen, it's still called MD4. So that's how you do that. And yep, that's how you handle this in Rust systems. However, if you want to center this, centering basically happens on the row class. So you can come here and do justify content center like that, publish that, and it should be centered, I assume. Oh well, that doesn't seem like it's centering, but pretty sure you can figure something out. Okay, so in case of any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and see you in the next video, guys.